So in this video I want to talk about some of the most common mistakes that many people make with their money and their finances, and that they find out very late in life. And if they could have just adjusted these 8 things in the early days of their life, they would have seen a totally different result when it comes to their money. And also some mistakes that makes people work very hard in the front end, maybe in their job or their business, but if they don't have the back end, meaning what they actually do with their money and how they look at money and finances, they work very hard, but they are like spinning in a hamster wheel. So they're not really taking the best choices with their money in the back end, like their capital allocation, like what they do with their money. So they're working really hard in one end and then they're taking lousy decisions in the other end. So it makes it like a zero-sum game in the end. So I want to go through 8 things that I've seen that people are doing and how one can correct those early in life. So hopefully you can go through these and see how you can apply this for yourself. Maybe you're doing some of these mistakes and you can identify them and then see how I've corrected those, and if perhaps you can do the same. So to have a different outcome. And why I'm particularly interested in this is because one of my biggest influences in my life was my grandfather, and before I was born, he lost his business. He actually had a quite large business growing plants and selling, and had big many greenhouses and on a big industrial level. And he lost his business, so and filed for bankruptcy in his 60s. For some reason, this has always been a big interest in my life, and even though I did not know when I was growing up and got to know my grandfather when I was a child that this had happened, I think that energy a lot went on to me, and I could see, and I got really interested how I could prevent this in the future. So, because imagine that you have built something and he had inherited his business from his father, and he took it over and made it bigger, and then a tragic event happened, so he lost the business in his 60s. And if you lose something in your 60s, then you don't have so much time to rebuild something, to rebuild your business or to regain your wealth. So for him, it was a big tragedy that this happened. To me, he was an extremely important role model in my early life, because he lived together with us in our house. So we had a very much contact the first years of my life, and I could see how he had certain qualities, for example, going up in the morning, doing exercise, going out, taking care of the plants and the vegetables, growing for us, food, these things to provide and to have discipline, and these things. These are qualities that I saw him have, and I really admired it. So I got really interested in like the fruits of work, what one man can do, and how one can develop oneself and have grit and all these positive sides. And I reflected about this the other day, that I wish that I had been able to open his, to look at his financial statements in his business, for example. And maybe we could have figured something out. Maybe I could have helped him in his business to see what numbers were wrong, what he could have adjusted. If he could have taken more cash flow coming in to pay down debts or making long-term investments to see what we could have changed in the business to make it survive. But this happened all before I was born, so it was not possible. But it's something that I've felt a lot for, and I think in myself somewhere deep down is the memory of losing everything. Because even though that was not talked about when I was a child, that is something that kind of just emerged in myself, that okay, if you make the wrong decisions, really bad things can happen, and if you take good decisions to prevent that, really good things can come about. So I wanted to put together these 8 principles so that you can avoid them. because most people only learn from their own mistakes, and then maybe those things happen that you do mistakes really late in life that you cannot reverse, that you cannot learn from. It took too long time to learn from other people's mistakes. So Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, two people that I really admire, they talk a lot about learning from other people's mistakes. How can we learn from them and install better principles in our way of thinking, and then take better decisions early on to avoid these mistakes? That's much better than learning from one's own mistakes. So both for myself, I wanted to distill those 8 principles, and also so you can avoid them, to see what most people are doing wrong, in my opinion, and how they can switch those, to invert those mistakes into positive principles. For example, he used to work, when he was in the military, he was a weather forecaster. He would basically prevent pilots from crashing. So, and the first thing that he did was that he said to himself, okay, what is it that I can do to kill these pilots? What are the situations that would kill a pilot? What are the mistakes that I would do that would seriously injure someone or kill them? And then he made sure that throughout this whole job, he just avoided those mistakes. And so that's the power of inverting. You actually take the worst case scenario and then you invert that. And avoid that situation. And for me, that has been a very helpful thing. Let's do this together to look at these 8 principles and see how we can invert the worst mistakes that people are doing and turn that into something great. What are the opposite of that? And how can we stay away from that? So, and Charlie Munger, he used that principle a lot in business, and it worked great for him. And yes, he lived a great life and had many, many grandchildren and happy family, and became a billionaire. So those people are some of the people that are really interesting to learn from. So let's look at these principles together and these mistakes and see what we can learn from them. So here are the list of the 8 mistakes that people make. The first one, scammers and tricksters. Number 2, investing in projects you don't understand. Number 3, spending more than you earn. Number 4, depending on the government to take care of you and your family. Number 5, buying a house in order to get rich. Number 6, buying assets that increases your expenses instead of your income. Number 7, focusing on hard work rather than where you will get the most paid for the least amount of energy spent. Number 8, low pleasure from high consumption, especially financed with debt. It's interesting how many people get scammed or tricked in life in some way, in romance scams or in investment scams or different kind of scams, or they're tricked by another person who convince them to do something that is harmful to them in some way. So if we can just stay away from those situations, we're actually doing quite well. So it would pay off a lot to learn how to identify these situations and stay away from them. Up until my 20s, I thought that most people were really nice and that everyone wanted the best for me and for everyone else. So it was a very rosy way of looking at the world. And I was more interested in spirituality and these kind of things. So, but then I learned more the hard way that is not the case. There are people that, they would really like to take advantage of you and do bad things to you. So if we can identify those and really learn to listen to our own intuition and the warning signs when we meet those, we can stay out of a lot of trouble in life. Because our intuition usually gives us subtle signs that, like, this is a person that we cannot trust. So, but we are so stuck in our mind that we don't listen to those subtle signs. We don't see that it's too good to be true opportunity. So we fall for these scams, and many people after they have fallen for a scam like that they promise themselves to never invest again, or never love again, or never trust anyone again, or something. They make this very rigorous rule that keeps them from living an abundant, amazing life. So people really get hurt by these situations. One of my idols, Warren Buffett, he talks about he looks for people who are intelligent, hardworking, and ethical. And if they are not ethical, if they don't have that third quality, he hopes that they are stupid and lazy. Because if you find a person who is intelligent, hardworking, but unethical, then you're better run in the opposite direction, because that is a really dangerous person to be around. And learn how to recognize those. So, because Warren Buffett, he wants to do business with people who have those three positive qualities: the intelligence, hardworking, and ethical. So, and then someone asked him, how do you find who's a good person to work with? How do you find out if they're ethical? And he answers something like that people usually give themselves away. People usually give themselves away. If you observe them and hang around them a little while, you will see what goes on in their mind. And for example, there was in one of the Berkshire Hathaway meetings, Charlie Munger, he says that they were talking with some insurance person who had an insurance company, and he said he would only sell fire insurance to bridges that were built underwater. And Charlie Munger says, oh, well, of course that was a person scamming other people, so they stayed a heck away from him and never did any business with him. So and if you observe a person, it's very important to develop that sense of feel for another person, for other people, and trust the gut feeling about other people. Because they usually give themselves away in small ways that you can feel if it's the best for you or not. I think we've all heard stories about people who have been scammed, maybe in our family or relatives or friends, and then they make this decision to never invest again, or never love again, or never have a partner again, or something. But then we can learn from their mistake. That's much, much better than us having that same mistake. So as Jim Rohn says, we can learn as much from people's failures as their successes. So when we hear a story like that, we can ask more. What was it that happened? How did you manage to fall for this? What happened? Why did you end up in this romance scam? And then someone might say, "Oh yeah, I was very lonely for a long time, and I think something happens when we are lonely that makes us a little bit more stupid. That we don't, because we're so hardwired and we need relations to connect, for example. So that if we are in a position that we are lonely and we lack close relationships, we're much more susceptible, or it's much easier to be lured into these scams, because we cannot judge this other person. Because we so much long for relating to other people that our system of recognizing a good relationship from a bad one doesn't actually work. So to summarize the first principle, learn how to recognize and stay away from scammers and tricksters. So the second mistake that I see many people do, and I've done myself, is investing in projects that you don't understand. And this is for those maybe who have a business or do some type of active investing. And I've seen there's so many projects or when a person gets interested in investing and developing their life, that there are so many, they do so many mistakes of investing in stuff that they don't understand at all, for example. And they have this little knowledge about investing in finance, and then they think they're experts, and then they do stupid decisions, and I've been there myself in my 20s. So because if you're at a table with a person who has knowledge and you have the money, and you invest with them, usually it ends up with that you end up with the knowledge and they end up with money, And I can share from my own experience in my 20s when I had a plan that I wanted to save up enough money to invest in real estate, to rent out apartments, And well, that was a really sound plan, a good plan, and I'm proud of myself for having that in my 20s, but I had really not any good skills in this area. I had no expertise, no real education in this area. So me and my partner at the time, we took, I think, a 2-day course on investing in real estate, and we drove around in a small car and we listened to an audiobook about investing in real estate, and looked at places. And we actually bought 2 small houses with rental apartments, and one was about like 1,000 kilometers away from, or I think it was more than that, from where we stayed, and the other one was an old abandoned building. No one was living there. It had no heating systems. The pipes had broken, and there was old fridges and refrigerators out in the garden, and it was probably the worst piece of real estate in the entire country, But we got it so cheap. We thought, oh, this is an amazing deal. And the guy who sold it, he was, as investor Monish Pabrai, he talks about the typical car salesperson, that you want to avoid. He says that you just feel that you're about to get ripped off. You just don't know how yet, And so we had this small house, and we ended up losing money on these deals because we don't know what we were doing. But also, that's how one starts, and that is how one learns. And after these mistakes, that was the motivation for me to really learn and become an expert, and to invest much more in my own knowledge and in my own expertise, so that I could go out and do smart decisions instead. So in some way that was good, but I hope you avoid painful situation like that. But I also see other people who are really smart individuals who have maybe had success in one business, maybe sold one business, and then they invest that in one new business or a new field that they don't have expertise in. And so just because they had one success in building one business and selling that, making a little bit of money, now they think that they are an expert in everything. They overestimate their own capacity, and that makes them dangerous, and maybe they're about to do stupid decisions thinking that they're smart. Because when you have lots of money, you think that you're really intelligent, but and then you do stupid mistakes. So, and I've seen that a few times, and then something happens in the industry and they are really hit because they did not have the knowledge themselves. And when the shit hits the fan, when the economy goes sour or something, they don't really know how to fix it, or they cannot take over their business themselves and fix it because they don't actually have the knowledge. Maybe they need that key person who is super expensive to hire to run it. But if they would, I don't know, fire that person temporarily just to save the business, they couldn't actually run the business themselves because they don't have like 10 years solid business experience in that field, so they could do that. So they don't know the nitty-gritty of that industry. And that to me is a mistake. I think that profits come after 10, 20 years of gaining experience in one field, and in the small terms and in the small details, that is what makes something profitable or unprofitable, and something that can survive a downturn in an economy and something that cannot. So this boils down to the second principle: only invest where you have expertise, knowledge. Mistake number 3, spending more than you earn. This is a mistake that I see many people fall for, and it's super common. That because we're such a consumerism-driven economy and society, it feels so good buying things, which is good to a certain degree because that keeps the economy running and things happening, money flowing in the economy. But if one spends more than one earns, if you have a basket of 10 coins, you have a purse of 10 coins, and you each month you put in 10 coins and you take out 11, then very soon you will start to see that you either need to rely on credit, you need to have a good relationship with the bank to loan money, or rich parents. But in each of these situations, you will end up in trouble because your debt will be stacking up. You will owe money to many people, and that will be very painful in the future. So I think in the US, for example, it's very common to pay with credit cards and build up a huge credit card debt that many people struggle to pay off. Here in Sweden, the interest rates were principally zero for a very long time. So, and the house prices doubled during I think it was during a 10-year period. So people thought that they were super rich. Even people who only had a decent job and owned a house, they thought that they have done the best financial decisions of their life. So they started taking out more loans on their house to finance their consuming, which is a pretty bad situation to be in, because if the housing prices would go down as they did, or interest rates would go up to 4 or 5% as they did, then they ended up in a really shitty situation. And in my opinion, that is why Sweden is in a recession at the moment. And no one really talks about that, but having too large mortgages and compared to the income, that will create a huge problem in society, because when the middle class, when a whole group in society no longer have money to spend, that will affect the entire economy. And even investors are fleeing from Sweden because of this. So when you spend more than you earn, that will create problems both for yourself and for the economy. And for me, having had low expenses while building up a business, for example, that takes so much pressure off your shoulders, because you have so much more time to get the company profitable, and you can make mistakes and they don't kill you. They're more because if your expenses are really low, you can afford to make mistakes and learn, and you have longer time frame to get this company profitable. And what I did after my huge mistake there with the real estate was I moved in with my parents, for 2 years. And how popular was that when you're in your 20s, to be a guy living with your parents? That's like a huge turnoff to many people. But it enabled me to save up money, and to start my new company. And even when I moved out from there, I rented a room for a really long time to have the expenses really low, because then I could delay taking out the salary from my company, and keep more of the money inside the company, and that has been a fantastic decision, to have, and a super good principle to keep expenses low, and then you can increase your income, and then you suddenly have so much more money to either spend in improving your business or yourself in, for example, education or courses, which I did. I took several. I looked at the best management courses, because I thought, okay, I've really messed up, so I need to become a better, smarter individual. So I looked at, okay, what are the best management courses, for example? How can I be less sloppy and be more sharp manager in my own business? So I took some of the best and most expensive management courses I could find in my own country, and traveled there and took these courses. Got to know other people there who were running businesses or managers in businesses and kept in contact with them, gained so much knowledge from those relationships. And so in that year, when I look at important things that I did, my timeline, I saw that year after I made those mistakes, and something just happened. It just snapped, and I started reinvesting so much in myself and in this new business. And that grew. And then I also had money to put aside for investments. But it all came from that developing myself. And that came from spending less than I earned, because then I had room, I had the freedom to do all these things, you know. So that is an amazing skill to learn, because it will have super good positive consequences in the future. And this boils down to the third principle: spend less than you earn. So number 4, depending on the government to take care of you and your family. And this is a little bit controversial, because so many people work hard their whole lives to get a pension. And they think that, oh, when I get a pension, then I don't need to work any longer. I can just have an awesome life and relax and do my gardening and this. But what people don't think about is that so many people die when they retire. No, I think we really need, especially men, we need some kind of work in order to be healthy and happy. And when we retire, when we stop doing that, I think that is a dangerous thing. But when we rely on having a pension, having a government taking care of us, I think that is a huge mistake. You can just go out and ask anyone the last year now who has a pension what they think about it. You know, has the pension adjusted according to inflation, for example, when prices on butter or milk have doubled? You know, has their pension also doubled? No, maybe it has increased 2% or something. And when I talk with my grandparents, they think it's a joke, you know, when they look at their pension and compare it to how prices increase. So I mean, I'm a really big fan of that. If we're looking at something in society, or just go ask someone who is doing that, someone who has a pension, you know. And then when I talk with my friend, a friend from Germany, his grandmother, when she was working, she had a small business, and then she sold that, and then she bought instead I think it was 1 or 2 apartment houses, and rents out apartments. And she said she did that instead of like buying a pension plan. And you know, how much smarter of a decision was that? Because the rents will probably increase each year according to inflation. If you're a renter, you will see your rent increase each year. The value of the property will probably increase, you know. So to me, that could be a so much smarter decision than relying on the government taking care of you. Also, what would happen if, let's say, there are more, when you retire, let's say there are more people who are retired than who are working, and the government is there. We have all these pensions we need to pay out. What should we do, you know? Maybe we should just print a whole lot of money so we can afford to pay all these people. So we decrease our currency in order to pay these people off, you know? Perfect. That's the way how governments work in order not to end up bankrupt. That's the system. Warren Buffett talks about that. That's the system that people use in order to function. But it sucks for people who depend on that currency and who have pension plans and expenses in that currency. So wouldn't it be smarter to take care of our own finances instead? And because it's a little bit, pensions is a little bit that maybe it's a good way maybe it's a good thing to have in society, because maybe some people cannot actually take active decisions regarding their money, and the pension is good for them. Perfect. Yeah, but if you have some kind of IQ about finances and money, maybe you would do it better yourself. The fourth principle: become financially independent in order to take care of you and your family, rather than relying on a pension or the government. Number 5, buying a house in order to get rich. This was maybe something that worked for the previous generation, for my parents' generation, because then you could basically buy the biggest house you could possibly afford, and just making sure that you could pay down pay the interest and pay back the loan. And then you would see that house go up a lot in value. In Sweden, for example, the housing prices doubled during a 10-year period, and that's crazy. That is, I don't believe that is healthy, and I think in countries like Portugal it has been even worse, where a normal salary might be 800 to 900 euros, and one apartment in Lisbon might be 400,000 or 500,000 or more euros, So there, a normal person cannot longer afford to owning a apartment if you have not inherited one, or some way in your family that you have inherited wealth or inherited real estate that you can take over. So that might have worked for our parents' generation. But if we would apply that today, we think that, okay, I just buy the biggest house I can, and then I just wait for it to increase in value, and then we will be rich, I think that is a stupid way of thinking, and I think that is one of the major reasons why Sweden is in a recession at the moment, because too many people have thought that, too many politicians have protected owning a house and made so many tax deductions for people who own a house, and promoted this because the politicians themselves own houses. So there's an interesting book that's called The Millionaire Next Door. It was written quite some time ago, but I think it still has some good principles in there. And in there they talk about that your mortgage should not be larger than twice of your yearly salary, as a family. If you live with a partner, if you live as a single one, it's your salary. And I can say that in Sweden, in my country, so few people live by this rule. They have so much higher mortgages than twice of their salary. But I think it's a good benchmark to aim for that. So either you basically need to save up a whole lot of money before buying a house, or you need to buy a smaller house, basically, to be financially sound. This boils down to the fifth principle: don't buy a house in order to get rich. Financial mistake number 6: buying assets that increase your expenses instead of your income. So, in my 20s, I took a personal finance course, one of the first ones I took, and it was amazing. One of the things that we learned there, we were asked to write a list of things that we owned and see that if those assets, like the personal belongings, personal things that we owned, if they, from the moment that we had bought them, if they had increased or decreased in value. And in finer terms, that you can say that if they have appreciated or depreciated in value. So that's a good financial term to learn. Depreciation or appreciation, if they have decreased in value or increased in value. So, and then I could see that, okay, a guitar that I had bought, a really expensive guitar, for example, was now worth maybe half of what I had paid for it. And I thought, oh, that's actually a quite stupid decision. I could have just bought that second hand, from the first place for the half of the price. But I could also see that other things, like if I had index funds, for example, they were worth more now than when I paid for them. So they appreciated in value, they had increased in value. Or maybe something that I had bought in a flea market, some cheap item, then I could see, that's actually worth more than what I paid for it. And I could see that some people buy things that depreciate in value. They mostly buy things that lose their value. Other people, they buy most of the things that they buy increase in value, appreciate in value. And then I understood, okay, from now on, I want to buy things that increase in value. That would be much, much smarter, because even if I buy something, if I buy an index fund, for example, or an investment, and I sleep in the night, the next morning it will be worth more than what I paid for it. I saw a video with a personal finance person on YouTube, Nisha, that I think does really interesting videos, and she said that most people play the status game. And I thought, that's a great way of putting it. Most people actually want to look successful or look rich or look that they're doing great in life rather than being it. So, because people work really hard to get this, they put a lot of effort into their education to have a high salary, to have high salary jobs. And then with these high salary jobs, suddenly when they go to the bank will loan them more money to buy a bigger house, or vacation house or a boat or bigger cars, So they work so hard, but they climb maybe the wrong ladder. So they purchase a lot of things that depreciate in value or that increases their expenses. Because if you buy a bigger house, suddenly the roof is leaking, you need to fix it, or the heating system needs to be replaced, or you need to put in new insulation, or you have a higher electricity bill, for example. For them, it's a painful decision to see that the huge house that they bought, the interest rates increase, so their expenses increase, all the costs of repairing it increase, and they have less and less money each month. If they want to buy a really expensive car, for example, and then they see that their monthly payment is huge, it's as the same as a decent apartment, So they look rich on the outside, but their finances are running on fumes. There's almost nothing to fuel it, and the only thing that they rely on is that they can work really hard on their jobs. So most people are really stuck in this rat race. The harder they work, it's just spinning faster that wheel. One quote that I find really interesting by Warren Buffett is, would you rather be known for being the best lover in the world, but knowing that you are the worst, or being known for the worst lover in the world, being known for being the worst lover in the world, but actually being the best? And to me, I would much rather have peace of mind and have an awesome finances, than just needing to prove to my neighbors or prove to, I don't know, society or something that I'm doing really well. So I would much rather that no one knows how well I'm doing, and just dressing in a t-shirt or something when I go out, and no one cares, But try that exercise to write down your assets and see if they increase in value or decrease in value. And for me, it was a huge thing to commit to buying more of the assets that increase in value, and buying less of or trying to avoid the assets that decrease in value. So the principle number 6 is buy assets that will either increase in value or increase your income. So mistake number 7, focusing on hard work rather than where you will get most paid for the least energy spent. Many people think that hard work is really the thing that will pay off, and we strive so much to work hard, and I long believe that. I had a belief when I was up until my 20s that the harder something is, the bigger the reward will be in the future. And I needed to work a lot to get that out of my brain, And I think in Sweden, we have that culture of being hardworking. They say that many Swedes have gone to Norway, for example, to work there because then they earn more money. And the Norwegians, they love Swedes because we work so hard. So, but we really need to get out of our head the idea that hard work will lead to a big reward in the future. Because if hard work would pay off, then all of these people working really hard jobs, would be wealthy and rich, and they aren't. So we need to get that out of our head. Hedge fund manager Ray Dalio, he talks about in his book Principles, which I think is an excellent book to read, that in nature, the animal who can gather the most food with the least amount of energy wins. They will prosper. And it's a little bit the same for us humans, that the people who can make the most out of money and the most value with the least amount of energy spent wins. That's why you see these, for example, a software company can be very, very, very profitable because it only takes a few coders to create the software or the computer game, for example, if they can make a successful computer game. And then they can just license this to, and the more users that will use this software or computer game, then it will be insanely profitable. So they have figured out a way how to make how to create bigger value with a few people, with less people. So less effort for more reward. So, and we can see also how we can do this in our own life. One lesson that when I started to learn this was when I was a kid. I helped out at home, so I cut the grass, mowed the lawns, with these hand cutters. It was super hard work because it got stuck all the time, and I needed to push it, and it was like a physical workout doing it. And so I think I was paid from my dad like $2 per hour, and I worked an entire summer, doing this every week. And I thought, oh my God, in the end of the summer I will have made so much money. But then in the end of the summer we counted the hours, and it was like $130 or something for the entire summer. And I thought, oh my God, I spent so much energy doing this, and I only got this. And for me, that was really a lesson that working for a salary, that is not so worth it, But when me and my dad were on a holiday, because my father, he's an antique dealer, and we were on a holiday, and we were in this antique store, some shop. My dad was holding up a wooden box. So he said to me, Peter, I think you should buy this box. And I looked at it. It costed 200 kroner, and it was half of all the money that I owned at the time, half of all the capital that I had. And he said, I think you should buy it, and I can help you to show you what to do with it. And I asked myself, okay, should I spend this money on this thing, or should I say I've had this money saved up? Should I buy candy or some toys or something with this? But I decided to, I take half of my capital, and I put it towards buying this asset. So I did. And when we got home from the holiday, my daddy showed how to take one knife and to scrape it, how to take away the one layer or a few layers of paint that had been placed on it. It had been covered with new paint. And under it was this beautiful blue original paint, about 200 years old. So I did that, spend a few hours doing this. It was very specific. Need to be very precise when I did it to not damage the paint, but I managed to do it, and it became beautiful. Then I put it in my dad's antique store, and one day, my dad he came and said to me, Peter, we have an antique dealer from Stockholm, from the capital of Sweden. He is here in the store, and he's interested in your wooden box. And I was like, oh my God. And my dad said, yeah, you need to go out to close the deal. You need to go out to sell this. So I walked out and went into the store, and this man there was interested in buying the box, and I lowered the price a little bit, but I think I got 600 kroner for it. So I tripled my money by doing this work, and just experienced that I needed to do the handshake, to sell this asset to him, and it was an amazing experience, and so there I learned, it really pays off more to think of assets instead of just thinking of a salary, doing hard work for someone. It's much smarter to use my brain, to structure things really, and it's much smarter to use my brain and my knowledge in order to earn money than working hard. Jim Rohn, one of my favorite speakers, he states the rule: profits are better than wages. And I think this is this is also a way of summarizing this lesson. So principle number 7 would be: focus your investment of time and energy where you will get the highest reward. That is much better than just working hard. Mistake number 8: low pleasure from high consumption, especially financed with debt. I was reading about Henry Ford and in their when the industrial age started and when they started building all these cars. And we tend to forget that the middle class was actually invented so that they saw that we actually need to have a large group in society that have free time and that have money so that they're able to consume more. So the middle class then was actually invented by these capitalists. So now we tend to forget that. We tend to think that middle class is the best thing there is, but it is a thing that was actually invented to be able to have higher consumption and more money flowing in society. So, and you can see also banks, they really promote this, that still today that, oh, the middle class is so great. They don't say these words, but oh, you buying a house is the like pinnacle of your life, buying this and having a high paid job, you know. But then you're working for the bank, and then you're working for the person owning that business, you know. So this middle class is actually the class that makes the highest work contribution in society. They are the hardest working there is, and you can see this now when so many people burn out. So many, especially women, have problems with this, that they burn out, but men also, but that they work so hard, you know, and have so little time left for themselves that they burn out. And because they need to work so hard to pay off all this debt that they have from their house, need to consume so much to portray this high lifestyle. So, but I think it's really important to look through this, to look what is behind the curtain, you know. The middle class was actually invented for as a boost to the economy, as the capitalists needed to have a large group in society consuming and spending. And they would also hire these people to perform most of the high quality work and do most of the hard work. So this is the hardest working and most stressed group of people in the society. And in my life, I've focused a lot on how I can have peace of mind. How can I use money to have peace of mind, to do my own projects, and to not be dependent on a salary or dependent on other people, you know. So how can I use my resources to have peace of mind and do the things that I want to do? So for me, the freedom to do whatever I want whenever I do is the highest, one of the highest motivations for me. So, and in order to do that, then a big thing for me was to look at, okay, how can I spend money in my time and to get high satisfaction and high reward for low money, for little money. And really to look at, okay, what could I buy with this, you know, to make a decision with each unit of money that comes in, and to see it as a unit of energy, happiness, or money that comes in, and how can that generate the most benefit for me and for others, you know. So for me, I saw that, okay, spending time with my girlfriend, for example, that brings so much joy. Riding my bicycle brings so much joy. Growing my tomato plants, for example, brings so much joy. And these are all things that don't cost specifically, they don't cost so much money. And one guy who is a master of this is Richard Koch, who is an investor who he lives in Portugal. He has one house there. And his favorite thing to do is take 2-hour-long rides with his bike. I think he does that each morning. Then he sits by his small pond with his goldfish, and then he meditates, and then he writes books, basically. So he reflects on life and writes. He lives, even though he has really nice houses and this, the actual lifestyle he has is doesn't cost so much money, and he has figured out how to what he really enjoys, and doing that a lot. And he says that his biggest idol is Warren Buffett. And he says that Warren basically just sits and reads financial statements. That's what he does every day. Reads financial statements of different businesses and analyzes different businesses and see, okay, which ones could be good to buy and when could be a good time to do it. And analyzes the economy and see what is happening in the economy. So, and that is what he loves the most, you know. So, and then maybe he does 1 or 2 purchases or financial decisions per year. So, and he has figured out a way of doing stuff that he likes every day, that are really simple and that are highly potent activities. So those, when he decides to buy, he goes big, you know. So then he buys businesses for a few $1 billion, you know, and then he sits and waits until the next fish comes that he can catch. For example, he was going to buy a new car, and he found the model that he liked, and Then when he had bought it, he then returned it because he found the same model, but that had hail damage on the roof. You could see small traces of that, and then he could lower the price more, you know. So for them, it's much more important to see how they can use money in a way that both live a lifestyle that doesn't cost so much. And Warren, he still lives in the same house that he bought for him and his wife in his 20s. So he never upgraded, even though he made so much money after that. So he lives a quite simple lifestyle. So it's more they just want to do stuff that they like every day and don't just spend money on lots of crazy things that they don't enjoy particularly. And this can be distilled in the 8th principle: finding high pleasure from low consumption, paid cash. So I hope that you can take 1 or 2 of these ideas and try them out, and to see how they can change your life, the way you look at money. Because in my experience, when we see things in a new way, if we can get one idea so we see things in a new way, it's like taking on another pair of glasses or removing the sunglasses, and we can see things more clearly. Then we can start taking decisions, better decisions. And when we start taking better decisions, we have different outcomes. So I find that is much more important than working hard or something. So experiment with this and see what you find out. And it would be amazing to hear what you think, and if you've tried any one of these. So thanks so much for watching the video. It would be amazing to hear what you think. So leave a comment and have a nice day. Bye.